It's a snow day, but it's kind of fun to be sitting here in my house and enjoying myself. So learning a lot this morning already, and hopefully I can share with you some of the things I've learned in the last few years with this tool that I found. So I'm talking about using interactive maps in the classroom to promote student inquiry. I work in Wayland, Michigan. I am a teacher technology consultant, and I have my contact information there. In the upper right-hand corner, you will notice the shortcut to the slideshow. And if you ever need it, it will be up there, because some of them I have links in here, and then also in case you want to reference it later, because I have a lot of information. So don't worry if you miss something, it should be in here. So using interactive maps in the classroom, basically, I think a lot of us can relate to the fact that if you put a map in front of us, maybe not everybody, but I love to look at maps. And it's so nice when you can start to connect that with student inquiry, asking questions about the map or things that you can find out. And then obviously we all know higher order thinking skills, basically bringing it up that ladder, trying to get the students from just remembering to applying, analyzing, and eventually creating. So that is where I think some of the tools you're going to see in here are fantastic, and it taps in definitely that student curiosity and inquiry that we're hoping for. I will apologize, my slide is a little off here. But basically what are we going to take away? One of the things, the only thing you get away today is exploring the prepared map lessons for various content areas. There's going to be a lot that I'm going to talk about, and hopefully, if anything, that will be all that you're going to at least take away. We will do some actual exploring online mapping tools. I'm not going to go through probably everything that I have on here. It's just going to be based on time. And I would like for you to explore along the way with me. But basically, we're going to learn how to maybe customize some of those tools in your classroom to meet your different needs, and then how you can allow students to explore various data maps and draw conclusions based on data facts. We're going to talk about story maps. This is one of the highlights where I'd love to see it all head to, which is that creation level. But it won't happen right away. It does take a little bit of time to build up to that. And then I'm going to provide you with learning steps for student and staff creation of story maps. And at the end, I would love for us to all just take a few minutes and share something out. So here's some tips for today, because this is a little bit different. I'm not in the classroom with you, and if you get stuck along the way, I just want to remind you to go ahead and try the activities, or you can just simply watch. I think you're going to gain something by watching what I am doing. So I said, don't worry if you get lost, because there's sometimes some of them have steps. I have the steps scripted out on the slides, and then also I went through and I created videos. So you could go back and watch it later on your own and follow what I'm doing. Also, you could contact me if you had questions. You're going to probably be having the WebEx up, so you'll want to have another tab or window to do it in. You could even do this on a separate device, like I have my iPad sitting next to me for directions, but you could have, an iPad or a tablet that you're working on it as well. We're basically going to be accessing websites, so it should work on most browsers. If you can get on Chrome, Safari, you shouldn't have any problem, which then if students are working on it, I don't foresee any issues as well. So we're going to start out with Esri's Geo Inquiries, and this is where I think there's just a goldmine of some great stuff. The highlight here is there are some ready-to-use lessons in multiple content areas. So not just one thing, not just social studies. There's some good stuff in lots of different areas. And what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to, and I gave you the link there, it's esri.com/geo inquiries. And that's where I'm going to go right now. And I would like for everybody to go there, at least right now, to start exploring If somebody wants to throw it in the chat window, that would be great too. It's going to take me a second to get there. And what it will do is the shortcut will filter you to the Esri Geo Inquiries for Schools. These are lessons that were created by some contacts with Geo Inquiries with Esri. You're going to notice if I scroll down a little bit, it says there are some different content areas. If we can go ahead and explore in one content area, and this is mathematics. And what you're going to find, the collection here is probably going to be more secondary. There is one collection that is more for elementary, and I would say elementary would be grades 3 and up. You probably could modify some things for younger, but if you wanted that upper elementary grade levels, that would be the content area that you would like to search for. Once you're in to the collection, you can look around. There's some different, and I'm just going to go ahead and explore the first one here. So when you click on, like I want rates and proportions, I used to teach 7th grade math. Hopefully this will be something great here. It's going to give you a little bit of detail, but basically you either need to open here or open one of the two places. And now you're going to see a teacher lesson plan. I like that it gives you all the information. Here's your target audience, about what time required, that it would be required. They give you those content standards that we have here, learning outcomes. And then just to kind of walk you through what the basic lesson layout would be, there's always going to be a map URL, and I'll go on that in just a moment. But basically, you have the engage level. And here are some questions that are just to start out. And again, we talked about using questioning and maps to start to get that student inquiry. So how is Timbalar Island changing? And then they give you directions. You could walk your class right through this. You could create like a worksheet. These are designed for teachers to look at. But basically, once you go through this, like here, how is Timbalar Island changing? Now, when you go to open up this link, I strongly suggest that you open it. I'm going to right-click and open it in a new tab. That way you can go back and find your directions. So I'm going to open it in a new tab. And it says, so basically you'd start at how is Timbalar Island changing, click on the, you'd read the question, click on the link above to launch the map, and then it's going to give you some directions. And then basically, you know, you can follow the directions. So what I would like to do right now is I would like to give you all about 8 minutes to kind of explore and do some different things. I'm going to go ahead and set a timer on my screen so that I can kind of judge our time. But I do have, if you notice the next few slides, if you find something fantastic, I would love for you to say, hey, I found this lesson on, you know, rates and ratios. I think a lot of our middle school math teachers would love it. So if you can start to shoot some of those things that you found with other people, and I believe I made my slideshow editable for you, I'd love for you to add some of that in there. So I'm going to give you, I said about 8 minutes, and I will check in. And if you have some questions, just let me know, and I will set a timer.
Hey, Cheryl, while I'm kind of looking around at the Esri Geo Inquiries, can you tell me more about, is Esri the organization?
Yes, Esri is the organization, and they work, it's kind of like there's something called ArcGIS. So ArcGIS is part of Esri, and basically I have to say I don't know the exact connection between the two of them. I know that sometimes I'm working on the ArcGIS part of it, and then other times I'm working on Esri. I'm thinking Esri is more, let's see here, the overall thing, and then ArcGIS is a little bit more of a support for the educational realm. At least that's been my dealings with it, if that makes sense. And I'm just going to kind of explore here, so if other people are just watching, I was setting up my timer, but I'm just going to explore the one thing that I was looking at, so if somebody else wants to see that. So on mine, it had talked about rates and proportions, I believe. So I'm looking around. I click on the link to launch the map, and I have done that in another window. Says with the details button depressed, click the button which show contents. So we have the details button and the show content. And sometimes you got to just navigate around and find, like you hover and it will tell you what things are there. So show, and then there's some different markers here. And then let's see here. So turn on each imagery layer starting with 1991 and proceeding to 2015. So you notice there's some different imageries, and I'm going to go ahead and start out with 1991 and see, oh, those are markers. Okay. So we're just exploring a little bit here. And I can turn other layers off if I want to change that. And again, as a teacher, you'd want to obviously run through these things on your own to find out what, what it is, but it does take a little time to explore. I have not been on this one before. I did the 4th grade street maps one and absolutely loved that one, having been a math teacher.
Yeah, where was this when I was a math teacher? I'm on the distance and midpoint.
Oh, I know.
I'm sorry, I'm looking around.
No, and I just, that's what I thought, as having been a math teacher, I was like, where were these applications? And I definitely see a lot of those applications for that people would love now. And I just think it's so applicable. And I'm going to get in here and see if I can start to find out, like this was just exploring the map here. And it says, how does the island appear to be changing? So again, tapping in the natural curiosity, and then we start to get into the explore. And if I look further, this is where it's going to start to get into the distance and measuring and meters. So really, that's where I can start to see that it's going to do the ratios and proportions here.
And Cheryl, if I can chime in, I'm already, as I'm going through these, I can already think about like app smashing. Is that the new term? When you
Yeah.
put apps together, like
Yeah.
I could totally see doing some Desmos activities with graphing in this. I can see making a formative assessment out of it and go formative, a flip grid where the kids explain
Yeah.
changes they're seeing. This site is great.
Well, that's kind of what I want people to hopefully realize, that these are all pre-made lessons. They are Creative Commons licensed, so teachers can take it, go with it, and basically they just need to take the time like a normal lesson plan you're given just to kind of explore it and find out more. So this, if you get anything out of it, this is hopefully the biggest nugget that people will get. Just see if you can find some of those different lessons, and I'll go back in here and let's see if I can go back, like even the elementary for people looking around. There's so much in here. I was just amazed. Time zones, this is the elementary part. We got Lewis and Clark, so if you do want to get a little bit more of social studies in there. Expansion of the U.S. We got map scale, climate, always been a big topic. Weather forecasting, again, that's great. Seismic events, energy production. Just checking our time here, a couple minutes. Do make sure, like I have the slides here, take a minute before we come back together in just a moment, and can you share out at least one thing that you peeked at and what was the audience and maybe what you thought was great about it, so that we can make sure we're sharing with other people?
Cheryl, I explored an activity called mega cities, and
Okay.
looking at population growth and environmental impact, and I like the way that the lesson plan is laid out, starting with
Okay.
the engage, explore, all of those different components being in there, and having these different layers that sit on top of the maps and then can be accessed like this is really, I just think it would be so thought-provoking for students. The engagement level, I just feel like the engagement level around this could be really high, because there's some really complex and deep questions that could be asked, but having a way to visualize certain aspects of these concepts, I think is really, really interesting.
Thank you for sharing, Kit. Yeah, I that's what I'm hoping, that teachers, the minute I got into it, I could start to see a lot of different applications. And I know, even if it's not you, if you can share it with somebody else, like, I found this collection of lessons you may want to take a look at, and if you could bring in at least one or two of them for a year, I think that would be just a great start. I think we're almost up. I see a few people, let's see here, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. So I see, anybody else want to share out real quickly, or I'll just give everybody a minute if they wanted to. Okay, I see Julie. She found Where Does the Water Go? And she liked the overlays and stuff. And I hope you guys are seeing just what I found. The maps just kind of draw you in, and you want to explore more, and that's definitely what I'm hoping that students would be engaged with. So I'm going to go ahead, and then we're going to keep going right now so that we can get through some of this. Let's see here. I had those. Let's see. All right, so now we're going to just kind of explore more on our own, and I called this section See Your World. So what we need to do is have you navigate in a web browser, and I have the directions. If you want to just watch me do this, that is fine. If you want to go do it yourself, I'll try to go slow enough so that you can follow along with me, because it is kind of fun just to explore. So I'm going to take us to arcgis.com. And when you first get here, for options, we don't even need to sign in, which is really nice. At the top, I'm navigating over to Map. So I'm just simply going to Map and tapping on that. And it should bring us to the United States, is usually where it kind of starts out. And if you're on a device, you can do the zoom in, zoom out. But basically right now, if you have a mouse, you can scroll in, scroll out. But just kind of see, you can actually get in where you can see the whole world. I'm just going to move something over here. And then, just, you can go in. somebody needs to mute their microphone, just so if somebody just joined or, okay. So you can explore, and one of the places I wanted to show you is if you go to the address search, right here, the search bar, it's not the URL, but in ArcGIS, let's go ahead and let's find the capital in Lansing of Michigan. So we're going to type in North, and then capital with an O, and Kip and I found that out the other day. Do not put an A in there, you won't find it. And that's Avenue, and you should probably see Lansing, whoops, if I can spell, Lansing, Michigan. So North Capitol Avenue, Lansing, Michigan. And if we do that, I actually didn't get, I got the wrong, what's here? Oh, I got to get a different. You want the 48933, and that should get us the capital, and that's what we're trying to find. So basically, you know, you can hone in on specific places. And one of the things I wanted to show you right here, if you navigate up to the left, there's a word called base map. So if you tap on the word base map, you can now have some different choices, and I'm going to select imagery with labels. And notice what it does is it changes. If there have been some labels on here, I can start to see some different places. I can navigate around and search. And so basically, if you want, you know, you can try some of the different base maps. If you just want streets, you can do topographic. You can also use ones like National Geographic has some maps available. For what we're looking at right now, I think imagery with labels is just fine. So basically that is See Your World, and that's just kind of a little starter for how to navigate when you're on the ArcGIS maps. I'm going to move on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about measuring. This is one of the favorite things, especially having been a math teacher. I love the idea of measuring, and what we're going to do is I am going to close out this little search results. You can always tap the little X there. And I'm going to zoom out to see the world. So it's going to take me a little bit. So hopefully catch up. All right. I'm going to zoom in one more. So you can always adjust it. And what I'm going to do right now, adjusting my screen a little bit here, is I would like to have, I'm going to have you do a little activity. I'd like for you to have North America, for you to be able to see Australia, and then also like Japan. And you could ask your students if you were going to take a trip. Let's first of all approximate how many miles do you think if you flew from California to Sydney, Australia, to, let's say, Tokyo, Japan, and then back. Approximately how many miles would it be? And I'll just ask you guys to approximate in your heads. What's a guess? There's a great tool here. We're going to go up to Measure, tap on that, and then if I navigate down just a little bit, there's a ruler. And I'm going to click on the ruler for distance. And now I'm going to use my cursor. If I tap once, it's going to mark a spot for me, and if I tap again, it will continue on. If I want it to stop, I'm going to double tap, or I'm going to click on the ruler. So I'm going to approximate, let's say I'm leaving from Los Angeles, and I'm going to travel over to approximately like Sydney, Australia, and then up to, I'm guessing Tokyo, somewhere up in here, and then back over to Los Angeles, California. And I have over 17,000 miles, I'll double tap and end that, that the trip would take. I love that when students start to look at this, notice when I'm flying from like Japan to LA, it's not a straight line. That's the curvature of the Earth. And so a lot of discussions could happen here, making up real world problems mathematically. and just talking about travel, and I think just a lot of natural questions come in there. So that's basically measuring. I'm going to go to the next slide. And actually, I'm going to, like, coordinates, there's a whole discussion you can have on coordinates. I'm not going to show you that today. I did make a slide, a video for that. And then also there's a way to mark. You can actually do your own markings on a map. The one note on that is you would actually need to get an educational account if you want to save those maps, and in order to be able to share those with your students if it was a saved map. Later in this, you can find the information on how to get a free educational account. So I'm moving on to slide 13, and I'm going to go through this. Again, this one has a lot of directions, so if you get lost, just kind of watch me, but it is kind of fun to explore on this one. Now what I'm going to do, so I'm on slide 13, which is Explore Your World, and up at the top, mine right now is, it says Modify Map. I'm going to tap on Modify Map until it says, so it says New Map. So once I see New Map, let's see here, and you might need to click on Modify Map first. There's a choice here, and I would like to create a new map. And then it's going to ask me a question. It says, the current map, do I want to save those changes or lose them? Yes. Go ahead and open the map is a good choice. So it kind of looks like what we were at before. And next, I'm going to navigate up to the right and click on Modify Map. And what we're going to do from our earlier exploration is we're actually going to be adding some layer, like a layer to the map. So I clicked on Modify Map, and I'm going to navigate over to the left where it says Add. And there's a little arrow. And I would like to search for layers. So there's some layers out there available for me to start to search for. Now, this sounds like a big, long title, but this will get us the map that we want. We're going to type in USA 2012 population density, and then I would add mature support. So it's a long title, and then tap on Go. And you're going to get some different maps over here, and you might wonder why. They're all the same names. Well, basically, people can take a map, and then they can, like an Esri map, and then they can modify it. So I would like for you to scroll and look for the one that is the 2012 USA Population Density Mature Support by Esri, and then you can tap on Add here. And then notice what happened to our map. We added some layers on here, and we're not going to add any more. So on the bottom left, we can tap on Done Adding Layers. And this is where it gets fun to start exploring. Right now, we see what our contents are. On the left side, if you hover, you can see Show Map Legend. That's always a good spot to know what to do. And this is going to tell us our U.S. population densities from 2012. And as you go in, like I'm going to go into Michigan and just start exploring a little bit more. And notice it's taking me in deeper. And then as I go in layer by layer, I'm starting to see smaller tracts. And let's just go, I'm from near Grand Rapids. So I want to see some different areas. And you can actually, on your mouse, hover over, and if you click, it's going to show a track. And like here, you can get some more information. It tells you what that population density is. And I'm going to go ahead and go to next feature. And it will continue on. It will go to some nearby tracks or information on here. I can select different tracks. I like this because let's say you were doing some activity with population density. This starts to bring it real for kids. If it can bring it into their community, I could check out like where I live, what is the population density? And then maybe we could compare it to somewhere like India where they talk about people, are all closely living together. So if you've had a chance to explore this, this is really good. What I love, though, are there some applications. I think if you just type in population density activities, you could go ahead and find a lot of activities you could pair with this. We referenced app smashing earlier. But again, I think a lot of applications you could have with population density. I'm going to go on to the next slide, which is expand your world, which is opening up a saved map. So if you find a map, you can always do like a shortcut. And right now, I'm just going to close a couple of my link spots here. So, and in my URL, I have made a shortcut for this map. So I'm going to type in the Google shortcut, so GOO.GL / if I can get it right. Oh. Okay. And then I have capital F, capital G, capital Y, capital S, S, A, not A, sorry, 4. And I did not, let's try it again. And I think I got it right here. GOO.GL / FGYSS4, and those were all capital letters. Hopefully you get to the map shortcut. And this is last month's earthquakes. And again, it's a rich map where you start automatically knowing like, oh my goodness, there are so many things on here. You think of in the past month, we had all those earthquakes that happened in Alaska. And on the left, we have our legend. And we can also go to contents. And we have 2 layers. So we just did a little layer exploration. We have 2 layers right here. Like if I only wanted to look at the magnitude, not the depth, I could uncheck the depth one and I can look around. And then I'm kind of thinking this area is where a lot of the earthquakes happen because I kind of remember that. So if I start to click on this, you'll notice I now have some information. This is January 30th and it tells me depth, magnitude, when it happened. This was off Kodiak Island. Remember I said if you see the arrow, take a look. It says there's 1,186 earthquakes. This is probably, measurements in the last month. So I can start to explore that, and here's Chiricahua Island. They give me dates and they give me information. So again, for students, let's say you were studying fault lines, anything, geographical phenomena like that, I think this would just be a great application to start students actually digging into some data and then asking questions about it. What can you find out? I mean, just looking at this, I think I could find some fault lines fairly easily. Now, there are more maps than just this. So how would we find those? So up in your address window or browser, we're going to type in, go back to arcgis.com. Kind of going back to that home page. And then earlier we were on map. Right now I'm going to go to gallery. And these are where there's some maps. You might ask, who creates the maps? Well, obviously ArcGIS and Esri create some of the maps. But even like I'll say, this is a tool that local governments, like I know, an odd thing. the city of Grand Rapids, when I look at their recycling schedule, they have made a map on here to be able to find the recycling schedule for Grand Rapids, Michigan. So you'll find a lot of probably municipalities and stuff use this for a mapping tool. It's very powerful. And again, this is free access for education and stuff like that. So, and just free access right now for us to look. But you're going to find different categories. You could go ahead and take a look through some of the categories, the historical maps, if that's what you're into, like social studies, the demographics and lifestyle, if you're a math teacher and you need some of those numbers. I mean, the maps are endless in here, and again, I think you get lost looking around. And I'm going to leave you to find some time to explore on that because I want to keep us going. We've got about 10 minutes left here. I'm going to move into the next slide, which is App the World, and this is the story maps. And so actually on mine, I'm going to navigate here real quick. I have a shortcut there, and I did put a Google shortcut, but this will get me into it a little bit quicker. When I found this, I'm like, oh my goodness, I would think I would have liked studying the Battle of Gettysburg even more. This is where I think the power of the ArcGIS maps and Esri comes together, being able to create what they call a story map. And what you do is you can take maps that are available in, that we were just looking at, and you can tie that in with like a timeline you can add on here. You can add images. So right here, I can see, I'm looking at the Battle of Gettysburg. Somebody is able to give me a little commentary on the side here. July 1st, okay, and I look at this, and I can actually go through here and see what happens next. And you'll see I have a different, oh, this is what happened. I get a little panorama of what the area looks like. I get a little bit of what it's telling me what's happening in the battle here. And again, I can kind of move through this. And it's just fantastic that, I mean, my thing is, can you imagine giving students the ability to retell the story, you know, the Battle of Gettysburg, and having them create something like this, how it would bring it more to life. And I think it would make it more impactful than maybe just standing up and giving a short presentation or to me. And then if you could share this out, these are things that can be shared out with the world, so giving it that bigger, broader audience. I think I just see so many applications for this. So I know hopefully you'll have a chance to explore and hear more. If we go back to ArcGIS, and I think I have it right here still, you will notice, remember we were just looking through all of those different, the gallery of maps. One of the gallery of maps is story maps. And so again, you have a lot of story maps already ready that other people, yesterday I was just tooling around and I was looking at the great places in America. Somebody went through and made their own map of different places, and I know the one place in Michigan it mentions is Heritage Hill in Grand Rapids. Great, fantastic place to be. So again, a wealth of tools that you can use in your classroom or share out, all for free, which we love. So now I'm going to kind of keep going here. Just to get you started, I made my own first story map not too long ago, and just found that it was really fun. One note, if you're going to make your own story map regarding a local thing, and you want to use, let's say you go have the students take pictures using their iPads or some tool, like phones, do make sure you go in and you enable the location setting on your phone to record the latitude, longitude. It makes it a whole lot better. So that's just one little tip on that. But I'm not going to go through specifically. It does take a little bit to look through how to create your own story map, but I've given you some directions here. In Grand Rapids, I think a lot of you know Art Prize. How fun would it be to have students create, like if they went to Art Prize, go ahead and create a story map of visiting Art Prize, and they could share that out with other students and other people around the world. That would be great for art class or just a student. I know a lot of elementary schools do it as a class field trip. So tremendous way to bring inquiry into your classroom. This is probably the one spot, making sure people realize what I've shown you today. A lot of it we didn't even need to log in, but if you want to unleash more, there is a free education school bundle, and you need a district administrator. When I found out about this a few years ago, I went on the site and said, just signed up. I became the district administrator. So basically, anybody in the district, including students, I go ahead, I can assign their roles. It's not hard. I had to re-up our account, I think, this year, and it's still free, and I still can have, I think, 500 users for sure within our district. So do take advantage of these resources and share out with who needs to know that this is out there. I also wanted to include in here, if you like, I've got a lot of my resources just starting out from ArcGIS, which has online education. They have a lot of tutorials. They have a lot of resources to teach you how to go through some of this. So I shared that on the slide that I'm on right now. And then I just recently came into middle school geography. If anybody, I think it's like 7th grade, Mapping Our World, there are 7 modules that are fantastic. So if you know any middle school geography, that 7th grade world, please share that link with them because that is tremendous. And then this is where I wanted to make sure you took a few minutes. I know it's 10:42. Are there anybody out there that you can share this with? Because when I started to find out, that's why I wanted to do this, I was like, oh my goodness, there's so much out there. I think if we all just shared with one person, got that ball going and turn it over to some other people, I think we could really have some fantastic things going. And I know we've got just a few more minutes left. I know I haven't really taken any questions, but if there's any questions that people have, feel free to chime in there. And I know I shared a lot, but hopefully you've got something out of there.
One thought that occurred to me is I've been working a lot with our elementary and middle school technology classes, and I think that there's a lot of ways that we could weave that into the work that we're doing in those areas. I mean, the core content classes, you know, eventually I'd like to get there, but one starting place that I'm kind of rolling around in my brain is our elementary tech classes, because we're going to be able to have a little more time in the next couple of years. We've taken away NWEA testing responsibilities from those environments because now our core classrooms have more access to the technology and are able to do it. So we've freed up some time, and I think this is the kind of creative but also really applied use of the technology that those teachers are looking for, some really interesting ideas. And I love that there's so much that is already kind of mapped out for a teacher so they don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yes, and that's what I want. I don't want people to be afraid of this. Even if you just started out with, you know, those lessons, and then you get your foot wet and you're like, oh, I gotta take another little dip in here. I think it's huge what you can get into. So thank you.
No, thank you, Cheryl. These are great resources, and they're going to be spread all over Jackson County and Hillsdale County here in the near future. I can promise you that.
Good.
These were cool, and I really, really appreciate you taking time to show everybody these today. This is something that is great about this type of virtual rally, is that you get something to take with you when the noon hour hits. It's incredible. I bookmarked so much stuff.
Oh, good.
Hey, and this works great on an iPad too. This isn't device specific. I was doing it both on an iPad and a laptop, and it works great. So there's no reason.
And that's what I found out too, because we have iPads in our district, and that was one of my biggest worries is I want it to work on there, and I found it very seamless. So kids, I think, easily could use it. Yeah, I think it's kind of starting little, and then hopefully I'd love to see some students start to create those story maps, which to me would be over the moon. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Cheryl. We're at the 10:45 mark, and some people need to get to other rooms, and we got to get this one cleared up for our next presenter. So thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you, everybody.
I think I found the link for your slide presentation in the virtual rally agenda. If it's not there, let's make sure that gets there. So I'll stop the recording now, and all these resources will be available for everybody that didn't get a chance to take part of this great presentation.